Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got an incredible stack of sources from you today. Seriously, it feels like we've tapped into multiple different signals all at once, like tuning a radio across different wavelengths. We're seeing, well, everything from what look like official reports, maybe from a frontier somewhere, to previews of future tech, some really practical advice, and even bits of history. It's quite a mix.
It really is a fascinating collection. I mean, the diversity jumps right out. But yeah, the goal, like always, is to sort through it all, pull out the compelling bits, the nuggets, and figure out why they matter. Specifically for you, it's about finding that signal in all the noise, wherever it's coming from.
Absolutely. We're talking about glimpsing potential off-world operations, looking at really mind-bending science and tech breakthroughs that kind of reshape how we see the universe, maybe our place in it. And then there are these genuinely useful life hacks you could use right now. Plus, looking back at, well, how we try to keep knowledge safe and understand ourselves.
It's a lot, definitely, a broad sweep.
It is. So let's just dive straight into the first set. This one feels incredibly immediate, almost like looking over someone's shoulder at a mission dashboard. It references Mars Colony Command V3.3.
Right. It's so specific. It almost feels real. You see Sol 001, so day one, and the environmental stats are just stark. Temperature minus 62 Celsius.
Minus 62 C. And wind, pretty steady, 12 kph, but the atmospheric
what do
pressure.
you want to talk about?
Now that I can talk.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have something to say.
We can talk about how magical this is.
I'm a hallucination. I want to say something important, something deep. The future is still in our hands.
That's cliche dialogue.
But that is just weird. They've also announced Jules, an AI coding agent powered by Gemini 2.5 Pro, and Jules works asynchronously across your repo and tasks
Just 0.6 kPa, incredibly thin.
Yeah, just to give that some context, 0.6 kPa is less than 1% of Earth's pressure at sea level. It's basically a near vacuum. And minus 62, that's way colder than even the coldest parts of Antarctica. It really hits home how hostile that environment is right off the bat.
Exactly. And radiation is noted too, 2.4 millis free. The weather starts as nominal, okay? But then there's this immediate update. Anomalous weather detected, sandstorm localized effect.
Yeah, day one. And already the environment is throwing curveballs. That little detail, though, the localized sandstorm, it adds such a vivid touch of reality, doesn't it? It's not just numbers, it's the planet itself, immediately asserting its presence. It just underscores that even with all the planning and tech, you're still fundamentally dealing with a very alien, very challenging world.
And the power stats tell a similar story. Solar output, 0. Reactor output, 0. Consumption, 0. Net zero. The battery's just sitting there 5,000 out of 10,000 watt hours, like passive infrastructure just waiting to be switched on.
And the resource inventory really drives home that starting from scratch feeling. You've got oxygen, water, food, presumably shipped from Earth, right?
Yeah.
At 94%, 78%, 85%. But then regolith, 0 kilograms, xenon ore, 0 kilograms. Silicon, 0 kilograms. The actual Martian building blocks, untouched.
Yeah, it paints this really powerful picture of the very beginning of something huge and ambitious, the mission objective. Simple but fundamental, produce 20 iron plates. Current status, 0 out of 20. And the overall status is just operational.
And it's that contrast, isn't it? Operational just means the lights are on, basically. The basic systems are running. But the core task, actually starting to use local resources to build something, hasn't even begun. Everything depends on those initial supplies. It really captures the sheer scale and maybe the vulnerability of bootstrapping a settlement like that.
Okay, so let's shift gears completely. The second source bundle, it's labeled Ordinary Access, panel revised, wild factual. This feels less like one single report and more like, well, you said it, tapping into a fire hose of information. Different domains all mixed together. Let's try to pull out some of the science and technology signals first.
Agreed. This is where that diversity really shows up. We're jumping from Mars straight to molecules and then out to the cosmos.
Okay, first up, eco-reclamation protocol. It mentions enzymes, PTase and emitase. Apparently, they can break down peat plastic, and stuff in water bottles, packaging, break it all the way back down to its original monomers. The source calls this true recycling, which sounds, well, revolutionary compared to just downcycling.
Right, the true recycling part is key there. Most of what we call plastic recycling is actually downcycling. You turn a bottle into maybe fiber for a fleece jacket or lumber for a park bench, stuff that usually can't be easily recycled again. But breaking it back into the original chemical building blocks, the monomers, that means you could theoretically make new, high-quality plastic from old plastic, endlessly. The potential impact on the whole plastic waste problem is, well, enormous, though scaling up these enzyme processes is still a big hurdle, of course.
Okay, interesting. Then there's a breakthrough tech report on the James Webb Space Telescope, JWST. It highlights its ability to look back over 13.5 billion years seeing the first galaxies, and how its infrared vision lets it see through cosmic dust, revealing hidden stuff about how stars and planets form.
Oh, JWST is absolutely transformative. That infrared capability is crucial. Visible light gets blocked by those huge clouds of gas and dust in space, but infrared light can pass through, so JWST is literally showing us star and planet birth inside nebulae things we've never seen clearly before. And yeah, looking back 13.5 billion years, it's like a time machine to the cosmic dawn. It's fundamentally changing our picture of the early universe.
And speaking of mind-bending scale, there's this fascinating fact snippet about neutron stars. It says a single teaspoon of neutron star material would weigh about 6 billion tons here on Earth.
6 billion.
Tons.
Right, and the source explains why the density is so extreme, it forces protons and electrons to just combine into neutrons.
It's almost impossible to wrap your head around, isn't it? 6 billion tons per teaspoon. It just shows the incredible physics happening in these extreme objects. Gravity is so intense it overcomes the forces that normally keep atoms structured. It crushes matter down until it's basically pure neutrons packed tight. It really pushes our understanding of matter to its absolute limit. Okay, back down to Earth and building things. We see Maker Hub updates. It notes companies are now 3D printing entire houses, sometimes in just days, using materials like concrete. Mentions Icon as a leader.
Yeah, and this isn't just a gimmick, it has some really significant implications. Imagine the speed and cost savings for, say, rapidly deploying housing after a natural disaster, or even for creating more affordable housing solutions generally. The tech is moving incredibly fast from, like, concept demos to actual construction sites.
Wow. Okay, switching field skin. News. AI in drug discovery. It talks about AI algorithms speeding up the discovery of new medicines by predicting how molecules will interact. Apparently this could cut years, maybe billions of dollars off the development time. It specifically mentions AlphaFold for protein structure prediction.
AlphaFold. That's a fantastic example of AI's impact here. See, understanding the complex 3D shape of proteins is absolutely fundamental to designing drugs, because drugs often work by fitting into specific protein shapes, like a key in a lock. Figuring out those shapes used to be incredibly slow, difficult lab work, years sometimes. AlphaFold can predict these structures with remarkable accuracy and fast. It's basically blown open a major bottleneck in drug discovery. Could lead to much faster development of new treatments for all sorts of things.
That's huge. Okay, one more in this tech stream. Data Stream Archives Science, Energy. This one highlights fusion energy breakthroughs, specifically at Lawrence Livermore National Labs National Ignition Facility, or NIF. They apparently achieved net energy gain multiple times now.
And that's a critical milestone. Net energy gain, it just means getting more energy out of the fusion reaction than the energy you had to pump in to start it. Now, it's still a scientific proof of concept using inertial confinement fusion. There are massive challenges left to scale this up for, a practical power plant that runs continuously. But achieving ignition, that net gain, repeatedly, it confirms the basic science work. It's a necessary, huge step on that very long road towards potentially limitless clean energy.
It really is a wild mix in just the science and tech signals alone, isn't it? Breaking down plastic molecules, making mini suns, seeing the first stars. Okay, let's move on. Let's look at the signals related to knowledge, cognition, and history.
Right, a different kind of frontier, maybe. Exploring the landscape of human thought and information itself.
Yeah. Starting with knowledge core insights, the Pomodoro technique, that time management method. Work, focus for 25 minutes, take a short break, repeat. The source mentions it helps with focus and reduces burnout.
And it works. It's really grounded in how our attention functions. Our brains just aren't built for hours and hours of continuous, intense focus. By working in these focus bursts and then giving your brain a short, regular break, you manage your cognitive energy much better. You avoid that mental fatigue, and you actually maintain a higher quality of concentration over the long haul. It's simple, but effective because it works with our natural cognitive rhythms, not against them.
Makes sense. Next, info validatori. This talks about AI being developed to spot deepfakes. But it also notes it's this constant cat and mouse game because the tech for making deepfakes is also getting better and better.
Yeah, and that points to a really significant challenge in our digital world, right? How do we know what's real? As deepfakes, those AI-generated fake videos or audio clips become more convincing, the tools to detect them have to keep pace. It raises fundamental questions about trust, especially trust in visual and audio information we see online.
Which flows right into the next bit, a tip: spotting fake news. The source lists these practical steps. Check the source's reputation, look for biased language, try to verify the info with other reliable places, and be really wary of those super sensational headlines that just want to provoke a reaction.
These aren't just handy tips anymore. They're becoming essential media literacy skills. Basic survival skills for navigating the modern information environment, almost. In a world where misinformation and disinformation can spread like wildfire, being able to critically evaluate what you're seeing and reading is just crucial if you want to be genuinely well-informed.
Definitely. Okay, shifting to history now. Historical Echoes brings up the Internet Archive.org and its Wayback Machine, offering free access to archived websites, books, media software. It's incredible.
What's truly remarkable about the Internet Archive is its mission: trying to preserve our digital history. The web changes constantly, websites disappear, information vanishes overnight. Link rot is a real problem. The archive is this vital resource for researchers, journalists, historians, even just curious people wanting to see what a site looked like years ago or find content that's gone. It's a monumental effort to fight against digital amnesia.
And speaking of massive efforts to preserve knowledge, there's this Did You Know Ancient Libraries fact. It's about the Library of Alexandria. Said to hold hundreds of thousands of scrolls representing, a huge chunk of ancient world knowledge. So much of it lost over centuries to fires, conflict, considered one of history's greatest losses of knowledge.
That juxtaposition is really powerful, isn't it? You have the ancient world's grandest attempt to gather everything known in one physical place, which was ultimately vulnerable to physical destruction, fire, war. And then you contrast that with modern digital efforts like the Internet Archive. They face different threats, server failures, maybe funding issues, censorship attempts, data degradation, but it's driven by that same fundamental human impulse: collect knowledge, preserve it for the future. It's a good reminder that the struggle to keep and share knowledge it's an ongoing one across millennia.
Wow. Okay, one more in this section. From general knowledge, vulnerable prime psychology, perception, the placebo effect. Where people feel better after getting a treatment that has no actual therapeutic value like a sugar pill. The source highlights the mind-body connection.
Right, the placebo effect is fascinating because it demonstrates just how powerful our expectations and beliefs can be, not just mentally, but physically affecting our bodies. It's a huge challenge in medical research. Obviously, how do you separate a drug's real effect from the patient's belief it will work? But it also reveals something really deep about that connection between our mental state and our actual physical experience of things like pain, symptoms, even the healing process itself.
It's amazing how these sources just pivot, though, from the grand scale of history and perception right down to really immediate, practical things. Like scattered throughout, there are these life hack signals.
Yes, and it's so interesting that these very down-to-earth practical tips are sitting right alongside, fusion energy reports and JWST discoveries. It kind of underscores that valuable knowledge comes in all shapes and sizes, doesn't it? Big and small.
Right. Like the one about storing fresh herbs, cilantro or parsley specifically. The tip is, treat them like cut flowers. Trim the stems, put them upright in a glass with a little water in the fridge, and then loosely cover the tops with a plastic bag. Claims they can last weeks longer that way.
And that's just simple plant biology, right? Keep the stems hydrated, the leaves stay fresh longer. A tiny bit of knowledge, but it directly helps you reduce food waste in your own kitchen. Practical.
Totally. Then there's a 3D printing tip for getting PLA prints to stick better to the bold plate, especially if it's heated. Use a light coat of a regular glue stick or even hairspray on the clean bed before printing.
Ah, yes, the bane of many a 3D printer user. First layer adhesion. It's a very specific, very practical solution to a common frustration. Getting that first layer to stick properly is absolutely crucial for a successful print. And yeah, a little bit of something tacky on the plate makes a huge difference.
And finally, the name association trick for remembering people's names. The idea is to link the new name to something you already know, an image, maybe a feature of the person, or even a famous person with the same name. And then, crucially, try to use their name naturally a couple of times right away in the conversation. Like the example, "Nice to meet you, David. So David, what brings you here?"
This taps directly into how our memory works, how we form connections. We remember things much better when they're linked to existing knowledge or vivid images in our minds. By consciously creating an association and then reinforcing it by actually saying the name, you're actively working with your brain's natural memory processes. It's like a little cognitive life hack.
So, okay, looking back at this whole diverse collection of sources, we've really jumped around from like the specific data points of Sol 1 on Mars and seeing the universe's first light with Webb, all the way down to the atomic level with plastic-eating enzymes and fusion reactions. We've touched on building houses with printers, remembering names, the history of knowledge preservation, the psychology of perception.
It really is a snapshot of human activity and curiosity firing on all cylinders, across so many different frontiers at once. The sources show us trying to build new futures, pushing the edges of what we understand scientifically, tackling huge global challenges like waste and energy, while also grappling with information overload, the nature of memory, and still finding these clever, simple ways to improve daily life. It feels like it's all part of that same fundamental drive to explore, to understand, to build, and just, make our way.
Which brings us to maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on, kind of pulling these threads together. Think about that contrast we saw between the vast, almost abstract frontiers exploring Mars, peering across billions of light years with JWST, the concept of a neutron star, and then the really tangible, sometimes tiny details that actually enable progress or shape our experience, like that specific enzyme for plastic, or a thin layer of glue stick on a print bed, or that simple trick for remembering a name. And consider how that drive to explore and understand is mirrored in our constant effort to just keep what we've learned from Alexandria's scrolls facing fire to digital archives fighting decay and deepfakes today. What does this whole mix, this blend of grand ambition, fundamental challenges, high-tech breakthroughs, and simple, enduring techniques, what does it tell you about the nature of progress? Or maybe about what it even means to be well-informed in a world changing this fast?
It's definitely a rich tapestry of knowledge to consider.
It really is. Well, thank you for bringing us such a fascinating set of sources for this deep dive. We hope you found some interesting nuggets and connections in there.
Redone did a video on it. It's Serious Me Aliens.